Dear future disaster survivor, this is the story of what happened after my town was struck by a massive tornado and everything stopped being the way it was before. I'm writing you this letter because I want you to know that what you will feel is something others have felt before and still others will feel in the future. I hope I can offer instruction and comfort, or at the very least, a distraction. My wife Rashmi and I live in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and in the last week of April 2011, something strange happened to the weather throughout the southeast. James Spann, our legendary local weatherman, issued some pretty dire outlooks. On April 26th, he said the following day had that classic loaded gun look. The computer models did not look good. Something was different.
I'll think about that day every day for the rest of my life, but I will never forget that. You look at so many severe weather parameters. Usually there's a checklist of 30, 40. They were all in place. So we knew that the day would be very significant. We had 62 tornadoes that day, 62 that day. The last time we had an event like this, I was a senior in high school.
So my plan was to settle in on the couch to watch a man in suspenders talk for hours, showing maps of severe weather throughout the state. In the South, this preoccupation is as familiar as Saturday afternoons watching college football. When I finally turned on the TV, numerous tornadoes had already hit the state. Gunnersville and Arab that morning, and Coleman County that afternoon. To the north of us, a major tornado was ravaging the cities of Phil Campbell and Hackleburg. Then a storm developed southwest of us. I moved the vacuum cleaner out of the hallway closet. It just kept moving toward Tuscaloosa like it was on rails. Then the camera from downtown Tuscaloosa showed this, a massive tornado moving our way.
Look at the debris. Look at the debris in that. Zoom in tighter, Jason, if we can go in tighter. Look at that. Goodness gracious. This will be a day that will go down in state history. And all you can do is pray for those people.
And then the power went dead. We picked up our 2 cats and moved into the closet. We shut the door. It was dark, save for the beam of my flashlight. I huddled over Rashmi, who was weeping softly. And all I remember thinking is that it was actually happening. Tornadoes always hit other people in other places. The trailer park on the outskirts of town, the mangled homes and blown insulation littering the trees. But this, future disaster survivor, is important to remember. It can happen to you. And as we huddled there in the closet waiting, something came back to me. Another moment of unknowing. Another darkened closet. Another house in another time. My first tornado was on November 15th, 1989. I was in 5th grade. It was after school, and I was at home in North Alabama with my mom and little sister. We got into the closet as the tornado moved past us, missing our house by about a quarter mile. That tornado killed 21 people and destroyed my elementary school. 37 kids and 4 teachers who were there for an after-school program survived by huddling on the lower floor under a stairwell. The following day, we walked a mile and a half to go see the school. We found pencils blown deep into trees and books from our classroom scattered throughout the nearby field. Bricks from the building lay everywhere, and I saved one so I would never forget. I've lost the brick, but that doesn't seem to matter. You will not forget.
Amy Woody is out on the scene of Jones Valley School. It's a devastated area there. This morning, Amy, this is the first look we're getting to look at. What's it like?
That's right, Linda. The scene is unbelievable. This used to be
I can remember when I picked you up at school, I guess y'all had tornado drills or something that day and they'd be talking about it at school, and you asked me in the car.
Everyone says a tornado sounds like a freight train. That's not what it sounded like to me as Rashmi and I hid in the closet. When the tornado came over us, I just remember the sound of things hitting our roof, our windows, our walls. It reminded me of the sound of a clothes dryer when you've left coins in your pants pocket. The arbitrary and stray notes hitting with varied intensity. The thing I remember most is the smell. As it was passing over, I smelled the distinct scent of fresh-cut pine trees. That's because half the trees in my neighborhood were swirling above us. Then things got quiet again, and we were still there, our walls still standing, our roof still affixed. I grabbed my camera. We walked outside. This is the only footage I shot that day, or, for that matter, for many weeks afterward. On our street, the houses were still there, but many had trees on their roofs. I could not have then imagined that just 2 blocks away, houses had been peeled from their foundations. In the backyard, our huge pecan tree was uprooted and lying down across the alleyway. Later, we counted the rings and found the tree was 32 years old. It was planted the same year I was born. Rashmi ran down the street and came back to tell me that the shopping center, a mile and a half from our house, was now visible from the end of our street. I told her this was impossible. It was impossible because standing between us and the shopping center was at least 5 blocks of tree line and picturesque streets. Impossible. This, future disaster survivor, is important to remember. Things that were formerly impossible will be true. That night, we opened the windows and ate leftovers by candlelight. There were no more storms. The power was out all around, and the roads were blocked by trees and parts of houses. We listened all night to the birds, looking for one another in the darkness. The next morning, we walk around our neighborhood. Down the busy 6-lane street near our house, now emptied of cars and strewn with concrete blocks and bricks and mangled 2x4s. It's a gorgeous day. Everyone is out walking, out gawking. Soon the neighborhood is overwhelmed with do-gooders, strangers, friends, youth groups, their anonymous faces and hands, their tireless labor. Maybe people aren't bad at all. Maybe we could all be good if a tornado was just there to wipe us out every minute of our lives. Thousands descend on our city. Politicians walk the streets. The nightly news is broadcast from a few blocks away. And this is not something you can prepare for. You can have your tornado action plan. You can build your storm shelter. But you can't practice being a victim until it happens. This is fundamentally a different place. The storm destroys 4,700 homes, leaving 10,000 people homeless in Tuscaloosa. It knocks out 1/10 of the city's businesses. It takes off the earth entire neighborhood blocks. Thousands are injured, and, most shockingly, 51 people have been killed. The youngest is 2 months, the eldest 95. Their loss is felt by everyone in town. Even by those, like myself, for whom the dead were strangers. But unlike the death of any other anonymous person in the community, these people died in our collective tragedy. They died as Rashmi and I huddled in the closet. They died while we were paying attention. At first, everywhere you turned, you were reminded of the storm. The missing forests, the vacant lots, the mangled tornado trees. But slowly, these just become part of the landscape, not signifiers of anything. Until one day, when you realize your brain is remapping the geography of your city, and you're startled by your capacity to forget. If, like me, you're vulnerable to nostalgia, you will go to Google Maps, to Street View, and you'll click the tab that allows you to see things before the storm. You will look at the view from the end of your street and remember the trees. You will visit the ranch house 2 blocks away, where the elderly woman used to tend her garden every afternoon. You will go to the house where your friend and her husband survived by huddling in the basement as everything around them was lifted into the sky. And as you do this, you will grieve. There will be a marker dividing your life, before the storm and after the storm. But other things will mark your life too. The intractable illness of your sibling, the birth of your child, the unexpected death of your closest friend. And it goes further. The kids growing up, the loss of your parents, the accumulation of years. Every day we're separating from the way things were to the way things will be. And so, future disaster survivor, when you emerge from your hallway closet to everything rearranged, try and pay attention, because you're moving from one life into the next.